You're watching News Central Television. This is News Now with me, Joe Hanson. Let's take a look at the top stories for this hour. Nigeria Labour Congress demands immediate reversal of increase in petrol price. PDP Governors Forum backs Fubara as Rivers PDP leader. Algeria President Abdelmajid Tebboune seeks re-election. Stay with us here to get the details coming up shortly. News Central now at this hour begins in northern Nigeria, where we understand that a horrifying attack by terrorists has left dozens dead and numerous homes in ruins in the town of Mafa of Yobe State in Nigeria's northeast on Sunday. The assault, which lasted several hours, has been condemned by residents and raised urgent calls by increased security measures. News Central's Umaru Kirawa reports that officials of Yobe State government, led by the Deputy Governor Idi Barde-Gubana, has conducted funeral prayers for 34 victims of the attack. In Tarmua, a search for more corpses are said to be ongoing. The Deputy Governor, who sympathized with the victims, said the government will work closely with the federal government to provide military formation in the area to forestall further occurrence.
We are here to attend the funeral prayers of our people from Mafa village who were massacred by the Boko Haram the day before yesterday. And we have prayed for 34 souls, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them into Al-Jannah Firdaus. It has directed SEMA should come and provide a temporary shelter for them and all the basic needs of human beings. You know, the military have devastated them seriously. They have the capacity to attack major towns, so they are now bent on small targets, sub-targets where the people have been not able to defend themselves, and they take advantage and kill them just to show to the world that they are still existing. After all, they are being delegated to the background, and inshallah.
Well, joining us now to tell us more about this latest attack is News Central correspondent in Borno State, Umaru Kirawa. Kirawa, this is yet another attack in Borno, just when we thought life is indeed beginning to get back to normal in the state. What more can you tell us about this latest attack?
Well, the fresh Yobe attack is an unfortunate incident that happened on the 1st of September when people of Tarmua, people of Mafa, witnessed another deadly attack. In recent times, the terrorists have not murdered a very high number of persons like this one in recent times in the whole of the northeast region. And this is raising a lot of questions on what the government is really doing to ensure the safety and the security of lives and properties, particularly that of the rural dwellers, because farming activities is at its peak now, and coupled with the problem in the country, the issue of the increasing fuel prices, which led to the high rates of food prices and so on and so forth. In addition to natural disasters like flood, people now are witnessing the resurgence of attacks by terrorists. This is unfortunate, and the government need to do something urgent with regard to proactive steps so that civilians will not be murdered just like that, and numbers will be given. 34 were buried yesterday, led by the State Deputy Governor of Yobe, Idi Barde-Gubana. These 34 lives are, they are human beings. They are lives of people. They have families. The community now is already down. People have run away. Yes, the government has provided temporary shelter and some basic necessities for the people living at Babangida now. But much more than that need to be done by the government. The Nigerian government need to put more effort in ensuring the security of lives and properties. People cannot continue to live this way. the cost of living is entirely something different. And if, as I speak to you now, people, the search, some people, they don't even know the whereabouts of their families. They don't even know where to go. So it's a very big issue for the Nigerian government to tackle. And it's a well-known fact that the Nigerian government is capable of ending this insurgency. But many critics, ask why is this insurgency taking longer time than necessary when the government has the wherewithal, has the intelligence, has the army, has the police, has a lot of questions are really on the lips of many Nigerians.
Absolutely. A lot of questions would be asked, especially looking at the fact that something similar took place a few months ago where 18 persons were killed, and most importantly, entertainment centers and the hospitals were equally attacked. But we know you are our eyes and our ears, and you give us feedback, especially when you have the latest updates. Thank you so much for talking to us, Umaru Kirawa.
Thank you.
All right, away from our man there, Kirawa, let's move to our next story, but still staying with security matters. The Nigeria Police Force has directed organizations utilizing the service of its supernumerary police unit, also known as SPY, to ensure they abide by the guidelines on the use of its newly standardized uniforms. The Inspector General of Police gave the charge during the relaunch of its newly standardized uniforms, saying that it is part of the police strategy to revitalize the operations of the SPY unit, which provides guard duties for companies and institutions across the country. The IGP, who was represented by Deputy Inspector General of Police, says that it is also an effort to checkmate the abuse and misuse of regular police personnel, as well as ensure the supernumerary police officers are properly identified.
We are delighted to unveil today a meticulously crafted design endorsed by the Force Management Team. I am therefore most delighted to formally relaunch the new standardized SPY uniform and kits. As we relaunch these uniforms and kits, we mandate all organizations utilizing SPY police personnel to strictly adhere to these standardized uniforms. The Force Quartermaster and personnel across the states will provide guidance on the registration and acquisition of these uniforms. All police training schools are instructed to adopt the new uniform issuance model for SPY police personnel.
We'll talk more security matters in the course of the bulletin, but in the meantime, let's turn our attention to matters arising from the oil sector. The Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC) has demanded an immediate reversal of the hike in fuel price announced by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPCL), saying the hike has worsened the misery of Nigerians. Amid the lingering fuel scarcity in the country, the NNPCL increased the pump price of petrol from 568 naira to 855 naira, 897 naira. That's depending on the location per litre. Condemning the move in a statement, NLC President Joe Ajaero accused the federal government of betraying labour movement. He recalled how President Bola Ahmed Tinubu gave labour leaders the option of choosing from 250,000 naira as a new minimum wage in exchange of petrol price at 1,500 naira, and said they rejected the offer due to the impact it would have on Nigerians. We'll stay with the lingering fuel scarcity and we'll bring to you more story concerning that. But in the meantime, let's quickly also let you know that some petrol stations around the Wuse and Maitama areas of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, have suspended the sale of petrol, thus making motorists already on the fill queues stranded and agitated. This is as the news of the pump price increase of petrol started making the rounds. Respondents who spoke to News Central Television described the incident as unfortunate, saying government must answer questions raised by citizens. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
Stranded and frustrated, these residents of the Federal Capital Territory say that their daily survival is tied to the availability of petrol. Some of them say that they left their homes early enough to join the fuel queue, but that was not enough guarantee to get fuel as the queues stopped moving, and the station told them that the sales of PMS has been suspended till further notice.
What is time now? I'm in the village. I never carry one trip. I never carry anybody. I've been here since 5 o'clock. I joined the queue up from there. The reason why my car is somewhere here is because people are tired and they are leaving the queue. So the more they are leaving is moving. When I came in the morning, they actually opened the filling station and they started selling fuel.
What time?
That was around some minutes after 7. So, and we're hoping that we are going to all get fuel and get back to our daily activities. Unfortunately, we stood and we discovered that the queue is no longer moving. So some of us came out to come and find out what is happening, only for us to hear that they asked them to stop selling.
Nigerians are suffering. As I'm passing here now, I'm thinking how I'm going to buy fuel. I was just driving and see if I can beg someone to allow me to enter line. But I don't think anybody will allow you because the line is so long.
These people now, all those filling stations, that these people, they drop fuel this morning. They discharge this morning. And they want to sell it in the higher price. Why they know they're supposed to sell this one, when they bring another one, you understand me, they hide their price. But they believe that this is an opportunity for them to make money. And it's not good.
As expected, the situation elicited negative reactions from the citizens who say government must answer questions from citizens that need answers.
This information is going to Mr. President or the people in charge. But maybe people will come out to protest to tell the Nigerians, the leaders, their mind, what they are going through. They will just hear and put deaf ears to it. They don't do anything about it.
We have crude in Nigeria we're exporting to refine and bring back. And our president is an experienced man. We thought that once when he comes in, he will change things within 1 year. But we're surprised things are like this. We don't understand what is actually happening. Is it because they cannot import or we cannot even refine with Dangote refinery on stream? It's painful. Let the government do something about it, because when you punish people, you yourself will pay a price when the time comes.
For now, this fuel queue remains static, and for how long, only time will tell. In Abuja for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
We'll go on a break now. When we return, PDP Governors Forum backs Fubara as Rivers PDP leader. We'll also stay on the fuel scarcity situation where our man is on ground, Bernard Akede, and of course, we do have an analyst who will be joining us to look into it. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us here on News Now. Let's stay in Lagos, where our correspondent Bernard Akede is on the streets, feeling the pulse of residents as the scarcity of petrol indeed bites very hard. Bernard Akede, I know you can hear me. Tell us where you are currently in the city of Lagos, and what's the latest on the scarcity of the premium motor spirit, or better still, known as fuel?
All right, Joe, good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm in Ikeja in Lagos here. I'm beside an NNPC fuel station. And of course, it's apt that I be here because, well, the NNPCL is the epicenter, if you want to put it that way, the beginning of the whole petrol scarcity drama, or as we're having it now, increase in petrol price drama. The queue here is the same as it has been for as long as I can remember. As early as 7 a.m. this morning, this queue had been here. And it's still the same. However, the difference with what we're having today, between what we have today and what we had before, is that regardless of how long this queue is, the fuel station is not selling petrol. We've had people who are here. I've spoken to them earlier. The gentleman here declined speaking on camera, but I had a chat with them earlier, and they said they'd been here from as early as 6:30, as they do regularly, waiting for the fuel station to open and begin to sell. However, they're not selling, as you can see. I went inside earlier to speak to the manager of the petrol station, and he told me that the reason why they're not selling is because they haven't received petrol just yet. I equally asked him about the increase in price. Will the price go up? What is the official price now? And he declined responding to that question, saying that he hasn't received any memo as to price increase. Basically, he said all he can say is he can confirm that they will receive petrol sometime today. When they receive the product, he's expecting to get the memo as to what the new price will be. That's if there's an increase in the price, and then they'll begin to sell at that price, whatever it may be.
All right. So currently, the filling stations, the filling station where you are is not selling. The queues are long. Do you think that Nigerians are? What's the body language of the Nigerians that you've spoken to, especially Lagosians? Do you think that they're willing to buy, even if the fuel goes for 900 naira? Are they looking at just buying and moving ahead with life?
Well, unfortunately, Joe, because of the way Nigeria is structured, you know that we need petrol for pretty much everything. Almost everything in the country relies on petrol. So yes, Nigerians will have to buy regardless of the price. I remember as a kid, petrol being sold for as low as 11 naira, and then it kept on growing to what we had, 167, before it jumped up to what it is now, which is officially 685 or thereabout, or whatever the price is at the moment. So regardless of how much it is, Nigerians will buy. Talking about the body language, of course Nigerians are unhappy because with whatever increase in the price of petrol per litre, there will be an increase in the standard of living for Nigerians, from transportation to feeding to education to healthcare to everything. So of course body language, Nigerians are not happy, but will they buy regardless of the price? Yes, they will. The only difference now will be that people will have to buy what they can afford.
All right. My final question to you, Bernard, before we go to our guest who's waiting to join us on this conversation. What's the streets looking like concerning commuters?
All right, it's a bit scanty in certain places to start with, and you can understand why. We have more vehicles on queues possibly than on the road. That's one. Secondly, you have a lot of people standing at bus stops waiting for commercial buses. As of yesterday evening, we saw that. This morning, we saw that as well, for two reasons. First of all, commercial vehicles are also on queues. And then secondly, the price of commercial transportation has gone up. So it's either people are waiting to see if they can get cheaper rides, or there just are not enough commercial vehicles on the road. So as it is right now, commuters are the ones suffering, really feeling the bite of this fuel scarcity. So yes, that's what's happening. At some point, we hope that petrol will be available regardless of the price, so that people's lives can seemingly go back to whatever normalcy they can find.
All right. Thank you so much, Bernard Akede, a man who's been on the ground alongside other reporters, ensuring that you get updated with what the latest simply is concerning Nigeria's current economic challenges and fuel scarcity. Away from Bernard Akede, well, Aliko Dangote is in the news. Well, the chairman of Dangote Group announced that the price of petrol from his refinery will be set by the Federal Executive Council led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Speaking at a briefing in Lagos, Dangote said the pricing would be finalized soon after discussions with the NNPC. Dangote emphasized that petrol from his refinery would match the quality of any product globally. An official announcement on the supply timeline is expected after a meeting with the NNPC. According to Dangote, if all goes as planned, petrol from the refinery could reach filling stations within the next 48 hours, depending on NNPC's actions. Well, to discuss this with me, I'm being joined by oil and gas expert Suraj Yewale, director of Fortress Consulting. He joins me from Casablanca in Morocco. Thank you so much for buying our time to speak with us. Now, how will the Federal Executive Council's decision to set the price of petrol from Dangote's refinery impact the overall petrol market in Nigeria? Do you think it will lead to more government control, or it will foster a more competitive environment? What's your thought?
Good morning. How are you? Hope you are good. Yeah, happy to join you. I think it's an anomaly to have a situation in which the government is still fixing the price after we thought that the coming on board of a major investor, the private sector investor, is going to make things move towards the competitive free market situation. So that's quite an abnormality, hearing that the price will still be fixed by the government, and we never expected that when we were doing analysis for how things will pan out when Dangote comes on board, Dangote finally comes on board. But I think we should not forget the fact that what's most important at this critical time is some sort of supply security. Pricing, yeah, is very important, but having, it is what you see in the market we price, it's what you see in the market that we buy. So I think governments have, in all fairness to them, been quite reasonable from their own hand as well. To Dangote, don't forget the fact that Dangote himself said that he got some concession about being supplied crude oil in naira. So that's some big concession made by the government to Dangote Refinery, just to make sure that things work out for it, because we'll have needed a lot of dollars to buy if we wanted to do that in doing the normal, using the normal provisions of the petroleum, the normal currency of the oil and gas transaction, which is dollar. So getting that concession is, something that really helped Dangote. So I'm not entirely surprised that the government is coming back to say that, okay, we want something in return for that. We want to, having given some such concession, then, you also expected to let us have input in your pricing, because the government interest, I want to believe, is the fact that, supply security at this time, like, you just need fuel into the market. So if, and of course, they probably know that if everything goes, if all the pricing follows the standard private sector pricing, I'm sure that private investment pricing rather, and that's going to be some maybe much higher cost than what we have at the moment. And that's why I want to believe that government is wanting to have some input in the situation of fixing the price. Not exactly the ideal situation in a competitive market situation, but sometimes you give some of these governments give some of these leverages and interventions to be able to in their own thinking alleviate the suffering of the masses.
All right.
So it's not exactly something that is strange.
Okay. Earlier this morning, we had spoken to IPMAN spokesperson who said that the petroleum marketers are a bit worried with the fact that NNPC will be the sole buyer of the Dangote refinery, especially from the Dangote refinery. So they're worried. What are your thoughts on the petroleum marketers, the pricing being regulated by the NNPCL, and of course, its impact on Nigerians?
Okay, I don't think it's entirely also out of place to have NNPC as the sole of taker in the immediate terms, and in the short term. I want to believe it becomes a problem when this becomes the norm after weeks, after months, years, or something. For start, you start with the pilot phase. NNPC is, it's easier for Dangote to work with NNPC much more than the private, retailers. NNPC has a network. They have the distribution facility. They are much easier to engage. Okay, even though they can be problematic, but they're much easier to engage from the standpoint of government, and also the government, the representative government, the oil and gas value chain. So I don't think that's exactly something that is much to worry about. Even though there will be concerns about the efficiency of of NNPC retailing business, but I don't think it's entirely bad, because they are ultimately the supplier of last resort, of the fuel to the market. So there are people that government can hold accountable if things go wrong, even though that government themselves. But I think it's not entirely out of place to have them as the. I won't worry myself so much having NNPC as the sole of take care of these products in the immediate time, because it's much easier. Businesses, having to deal with a lot of marketers, private, who are probably do not have the network, the distribution network of NNPC, it's going to be problematic in the short run. So having them in the short run is not an issue. The issue might arise when we begin to talk about they not being able to bring the product to the market, having some inefficiencies and all of that. But I don't think that's big cause for worry. If they being the only they have always been the only supplier anyway, the only importer anyway. So they being the off-taker from Dangote in the immediate time is not something that I would worry myself over. For too much. Too much.
All right. Thank you so much, oil and gas expert Siraji Oli, for joining us to look into that particular story.
You're welcome.
Right. Nigeria's federal government has charged suspected illegal miners arrested in Kogi and Ondo states during a recent operation led by the nation's mining marshals to court. The operation, codenamed Operation Hayaking Kogo, took place in the Ika community of Ankwa local government area of Kogi State, resulting in the arrest of 2 Chinese nationals and a Nigerian for illegal mining activities. In the related development, mining marshals also raided an illegal gold mining site in the Ogunlepa-Olua Forest Reserve in Odigbo local government area of Ondo State, where 4 suspects were arrested. The arrested individuals who were caught in the act of illegally mining gold in a government-reserved area confessed during interrogation that they lacked the necessary licenses or authorization to carry out the operations. The Minister of Solid Minerals Development reaffirmed government's commitment to eliminating illegal mining in the country and promised the use of technology to curb the vice. And on to politics now. The People's Democratic Party Governors Forum has condemned Minister Nyesom Wike for threatening to destabilize the state over support for River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara. The governors described Wike's threats as empty and unacceptable. They reaffirmed their support for Fubara, emphasizing he should lead the Rivers PDP. Wike had warned the governors to stay out of River State's affairs, threatening to orchestrate crisis in their states. The governors urged the party's National Working Committee to resolve the crisis and work towards common goals. International Alert Nigeria says it has established psychosocial support platforms for women affected by conflict and gender-based violence in Kaduna and Zamfara states. The organization has also said it's introduced a community justice and stability model which can be replicated by the government to address conflict root causes from grassroots to policy level. News Central's Joshua Imarayi has the details in this report.
In a bid to promote psychosocial support platforms for women affected by conflict and gender-based violence in the Northwest, peace-building organization International Alert Nigeria says that it has introduced the Justice and Stability model. The country director of International Alert says that the model will address the root causes of conflict and promote effective dispute resolution.
It's a participatory model where communities themselves highlight their priorities along the key themes of the project. And then we set up conversations between communities and the state institutions for alignment. This is the opportunity we had used to ensure that uptake happens of these key priorities.
They say the model focuses on response by security agencies, including their strategy in tackling violence and criminality, and also takes into consideration women inclusion in peace-building initiatives.
This has really provided us the opportunity to kind of bring community members and head of security agencies in order to identify issues around security priorities. And they were able to come up with a work plan which apparently themselves will be able to monitor that work plan in terms of what are the areas they need to support the security agencies.
When we started as a network, we were able to mobilize women and started the sensitization concerning the project. And of a truth, we have gotten maximum results and cooperation from the local government.
The NGO says that it has established 9 safe spaces in Kaduna and Zamfara states to support women experiencing gender-based violence.
The intervention has really helped, and we thank God for the safe space. Normally, when gender-based violence happens, before a survivor can come down to the center for intervention, it's always a crisis, or the person might even turn up, may even back out. But the arrival or the establishment of the safe space has helped so much that women go in there and begin to talk and think of where to go next. And we thank God that the intervention has also helped in training women about the referral pathway, talking about the available services for each of the cases.
The project also trained health workers, safe space facilitators, and social workers on first aid and psychological support for survivors of sexual and gender-based violence in the Northwest. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
Coming up next, Algeria's President Abdelmadjid Tebboune seeks re-election. We'll bring you details of that story and more after this break. Thanks for staying with us. The news continues in North Africa, where Algeria's President Abdelmadjid Tebboune is campaigning for re-election, highlighting his accomplishments. However, critics argue that the country's pro-democracy movement, Haram, which led to the ousting of former President Abdelaziz Bouteflika in 2019, has not seen the comprehensive political overhaul it demanded. Despite Tibone's claim of success, analysts say a change in leadership alone is not enough and that profound political change is still needed. The Iraq movement was stifled and many of its leaders were imprisoned. Now dozens remain behind bars or are still being prosecuted. Critics argue that economic, cultural and diplomatic progress is mere division without legitimate political resolution.
مشاريع استثمارية تفوق 20,000 مشروع استثماري. اليوم رانا في 8,900 باش نلحقها 20,000 إن شاء الله. 20,000.
Well, let's now head to South Africa, where the government is being urged to address pressing economic woes with urgency. The call was made by the Free Market Foundation, following the reveal by Statistics South Africa on Tuesday that real GDP increased by a paltry 0.4% in the second quarter of 2024. The FMF argues that whilst improved investor confidence and heightened optimism following the May elections should have a positive impact on economic growth in the future releases, such a boost will be short-lived if the government of national unity cannot act swiftly to address the structural hindrances to growth in South Africa. The FMF warns that unless parties to the GNU begin to reform the policy environment rapidly, they run the risk of squandering the goodwill that has been shown towards the new government. This could spell doom for the coalition in 2029. To discuss this, I'm being joined by Dr. Monin Malen, Deputy Head of Policy at the Free Market Foundation. Thanks for joining us all the way from Johannesburg in South Africa. How would you, first off, assess the current economic climate in South Africa, and what are the key indicators that highlight economic woes?
Yes, well, I think in these sorts of matters, one always has to take a bit more of a long-term view. And the fact is that the South African economy has been stagnating for over a decade now. If you look at, rather than looking at overall GDP, if you adjust for the amount of the population, and you adjust for the effect of inflation and those sorts of things, then you'll see that GDP per capita is actually virtually the same today as it was in 2008. And, with a growing population, but GDP remaining stagnant, the obvious outcome, or the only real outcome one could expect, is for unemployment to also grow. So you've got GDP per capita stagnating, or at times even declining. Obviously, the next measure is also going to be unemployment, which since 2008, once again, unemployment is up by at least 10 percentage points. It's at around 30, just under 35% today, whereas it was in the mid-20s at that point. And even worse than that is the unemployment amongst youth, which today is at around 50% of young people who can't find jobs. And these are the 50% of those seeking jobs. But I think the overall indicator is actually the gross fixed capital formation, which is a sort of a measure of not only the short-term confidence of investors, but the willingness of investors to invest for the long term. So this is investing in far more tangible, concrete kind of projects, and that has dried up. That has remained either stagnant or has declined for at least a decade at this point. So where we are today, yes, I know there is some optimism regarding the fact that we managed to, in some sense, dodge a recession, but we can't be too sanguine about the actual state of the economy, which really hasn't improved much either over the short term, and over the long term has actually gotten quite a bit worse given the other factors involved.
All right. But what are the short and medium term growth projections for South Africa's economy, and what factors are indeed driving those projections as well?
Yeah, look, regarding the projections going forward, as we alluded to in our press release earlier, and I think you mentioned it in your introduction, there are some positive signs over the short to medium term. If looking at the exchange rate, for example, the rand has improved roughly 5% versus the US dollar over the past year. Bond yields for the South African government bonds, both in the short term and in the long term, have gone down, which shows that people do have a bit more confidence. They've actually gone down quite significantly, which shows that people do believe that South Africa is less risky an investment as it had been prior to the election. And the stock market's also performing reasonably well. But beyond those measures, on the ground, we also see some improvements in particularly the state-owned entities. So Eskom, we've had quite a bit of relief from load shedding. And there are some positive signs at other SOEs as well, such as Transnet. And fixing those network industries would be absolutely essential to driving economic growth. So there are, in the short term, maybe even in the medium term, some positive indicators. But the problem with those indicators are that they're mostly driven by sentiment, whether it's the exchange rate, even the stock market, bond yields certainly. Those are mostly driven by sentiment, and investors are more confident today, but investors can be quite fickle. So we need to actually utilize the positive sentiment, and we have to see real tangible reform. And so far, we have not really seen any attempts by the new government, the government of national unity, to bring about that reform. And as such, we've also not seen that gross fixed capital formation. There's no real indication that those longer term investments are starting to be made. And we believe that those will only really be seen when we have real change on the policy side.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Moni Marlin, Deputy Head of Policy, FMF, for joining us.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Honduran President Xiomara Castro denounced an ongoing coup amidst controversy over her decision to cancel an extradition treaty with the United States that has led to the imprisonment of powerful drug traffickers. Castro ended a treaty with the United States 6 days ago, saying he wanted to prevent Washington from using it against military personnel loyal to him and facilitating a coup attempt. But the opposition said Castro cancelled the treaty, which allowed the imprisonment of around 50 Honduran drug traffickers, including a right-wing former president, to protect members of the government and family. Let's now join our business team for today's business update.
The Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority has finalized an agreement with the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited to sell crude oil to Dangote Refinery in local currency, the Naira. This is contained in a statement by NMDPRA on Tuesday in Abuja, following the commencement of petrol production by Dangote Refinery. This development is in line with the recent approval by the Federal Executive Council to sell crude oil to Dangote Refinery in Naira and as well purchase petrol products from the refinery in local currency. The refinery is now poised to supply an initial 25 million litres of PMS into the domestic market this September and will subsequently increase this amount to 30 million litres daily from October 2024, according to NMDPRA. The deposits of banks with the Central Bank of Nigeria hit a weekly high of 3.42 trillion naira at the end of last week. This followed the announcement of the operationalization of the Standing Deposit Facility Asymmetric Corridor to plus 500 over minus 100 basis points from plus 100 over minus 300 basis points around the monetary policy rates by the Central Bank of Nigeria within the week. The SDF rate applicable to deposits made by banks at the CBN was increased to 25.75%, while the standing lending facility was adjusted to 31.75%. At the last MPC meeting of the CBN, the committee members had voted to raise the MPR by 50 basis points to 26.75% from 26.25%, adjust the asymmetric corridor around the MPR to plus 500 from plus 100 over minus 300 basis points, while retaining the cash reserve ratio of deposit money banks at 45% and merchant banks at 14%, while retaining the liquidity ratio at 30%. The South African economy grew by 0.4% in the second quarter,
the growth rate was slightly weaker than economists expected. According to polls by Reuters and Bloomberg, their median estimate was 0.5%, after previously reporting that real gross domestic product contracted by 0.1% in the first quarter of 2024. Statistics SA revised this number to 0.0%, which means no growth. The finance, manufacturing, trade, electricity, gas, and water supply industries drove most of the economy's momentum in the second quarter, as reported by Statistics SA. The quarter was entirely without load shedding, which has now been suspended for more than 150 days. As a result, the electricity, gas, and water supply industry grew by 3.1% over the quarter, the sharpest increase since 2008. And that's all on business news. I am Lekon Onobanjo.
And in sports, the Super Eagles have started their preparations for the upcoming international friendlies in Uyo. Despite a strong initial turnout, several key players, including Victor Osimhen, Kelechi Iheanacho, and Maduka Okoye, are yet to join the camp. Captain William Ekong was among the early arrivals, leading a group that included defenders, midfielders, and forwards. The team has gradually assembled over the past few days, with goalkeeper Amas Obasoge and midfielder Wilfred Ndidi joining the training sessions. After a successful training session on Tuesday, the Super Eagles are set to travel to Kigali for their second match against Rwanda on Tuesday. Interim head coach of the Super Eagles, Augustin Eguavoin, is confident that the team will fly against Benin Republic and Rwanda.
There's no difference in this one. I'm very, very confident that we will scale through these two games and beyond. We have the materials, we have the players, we have the personnel, we have the support, we have everything, you know. And the only thing we have to remind these players about is that they were almost African champions months ago. It's not even a year yet. So what went wrong? So it's still them. We will do everything that we have to do as technical crew, and of course the federation and Nigerians to rally around them.
And that's all that we have for you on the news this hour. But before we go, a quick look at some of the major stories. Nigeria Labour Congress demands immediate reversal of increase in petrol price. PDP Governors Forum backs Fubara as Rivers PDP leader. Algeria President Abdelmajid Tebboune seeks re-election. You can send in your eyewitness reports to the WhatsApp number on the screen, and you could also follow us on all socials. We are at News Central TV. And watch us live on Star Times, Channel 274, DSTV 422, Limex, Avo TV. And you can stream live on Facebook or on YouTube. I'm Joe Hanson. Thanks for watching. The ladies come up next with Jasiri. Good morning.